Hey guys, in this video, we're going to bring a retired Army truck back to life. This is actually really bad. There's actually no hardware possible. First, starting at one side. We tried to start it for the first time in nearly 8 years, not knowing that the fuel tank was full of gel and crap. And when we started it, we drug all that through the fuel system. We're going to pull the filter, flush the tank, drain our old diesel out. We lose prime on the system, and we're going to learn how to pressurize the fuel tank on this truck to bleed all of the air out of the fuel lines and the injectors. And we do get this truck out and drive it for the first time in nearly 8 years. It's fuel filter time. This is a Cat 3116 engine I figured out, and the filter we're putting on is a 7E9763. I was actually able to stick my phone back behind this filter and see the numbers on the back side, and then able to look this up on a forum online also and confirm that that's the proper filter. So in doing a little bit of reading about what I'm getting into now, because I've not messed with these Cat engines before, this filter may come off pretty easily and it may be stuck fast. Some guys say they have to use a large pair of channel locks and have twisted the filter in the process of getting it off. So I hope it's not that hard for us. I do have a bucket down underneath. I'm going to try to catch as much of this fuel as I can in a pretty awkward position. We're going to stick our wrench in here and see if by chance I got the right size wrench. Oh, that filter is loose. If I hadn't already heard it run so well before it clogged up, I would have said it could have been sucking air. So we're going to say this filter's been off before. It's an upside down filter, super strange design. We're about to make a mess, and it's also not something I can pre-fill. I know there's a lot of controversy over whether or not a fuel filter should be pre-filled, because technically the fuel you're putting in that filter is unfiltered for a portion. Oh, what a mess. Filter's off. It truthfully doesn't look too bad. It'll be interesting to take this back to the shop and cut the top off and see what the elements inside look like. We've got the O-ring. You always need to make sure the O-ring comes with your filter. I'm going to set this down out of the way. And we've got a new filter right here to put on. Again, this is a 7E9763. I've got some fuel on my glove here. I'm going to get just a little bit more. You always want to get some oil or some diesel on this O-ring right here. It's going to help this O-ring seal when you put it back on. Just a little something to lubricate it. I'm going to say that O-ring is good and wet now. So here we got our new filter. The O-ring is not going to fall off. The surface down here looks clean and dry. I don't know about dry. It looks clean. There's fuel on it. Pop that filter on, spin it right back. Yeah, I'm going to take my wrench and tighten that on. I'm just going to be totally honest with you guys. I'm comfortable doing this kind of work, but operating in front of a camera is totally new territory for me. And it's got me pretty nervous, but I figure I do some pretty cool stuff, and it would sure be neat to bring y'all along. I know I've learned so much from watching YouTube. Between reading forums and watching YouTube videos, I'm able to figure out nearly anything I need to know. And particularly when I was reading about changing the filter on this truck, I didn't find the videos or material I was looking for. I got that pretty tight. They say 3/4 of a turn past hand tight. I think that's probably about where I've got that. That was actually a simple process. I thought we were going to have to fight channel locks or something to bust that loose. Like I said earlier in the video, I read on forums that some guys had to take a pair of channel locks to that and nearly twisted the filter, the actual metal of it, trying to get it off because it was so tight. So clearly this one had been off before. There's no way to prime this. There's no primer bulb. We're just going to get in and turn the ignition on the truck, let it cycle for about 30 seconds. This is a return style. So the fuel pump is actually going to pull through fuel through that filter, cycle it back to the tank, and it should purge the system in about 30 seconds. Once I've let it purge, we're going to go ahead and hit the key and see if this thing fires right up. All right, fuel filter has been replaced. Hopefully I didn't run the battery down too far when I was cranking it last time trying to get it to start. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my ignition on. We're going to give it about 30 seconds, give it a chance to cycle fuel through that filter. Once we've had about 30 seconds, I'll try to start it. So right now it should be pulling fuel through the system. We have a send and a return line coming from the fuel tank to that filter. So right now we're pulling fuel from the filter, pushing air back into the tank. And I'd really like to see that the fuel is circulating through. In fact, I may pull the camera out for just a second and see if we can see fuel circulating in that tank. Let's give that a shot, see if we can see it. All right, we're gonna walk around the truck over here and see if we can see the fuel circulating in the tank. I'd really love to see some movement over here in the tank just to know that we've actually got all the air blood out of the system. I figured we'd see some fuel moving in there. Man, I just don't know that we're gonna be able to. Here, I wasn't quite prepared for this, but I got a flashlight in my pocket. Let's shine a flashlight in there. There's a suction tube. I don't know that I'm seeing any fuel moving, to be honest. Makes me a little bit nervous. I was really hoping we'd see fuel moving in there. See, right here we have the suction tube right here. This would be our return line in the back of the tank. And boy, I just can't see. I guess if there's a chance that return line goes all the way to the bottom, it wouldn't be disturbing the fuel, but I'd hope to see some fuel shaking for sure. I'm a little bit nervous to turn this over with there possibly being air in the lines, but I guess we're going to go ahead and give it a shot. Well, if this is wrong, y'all are going to learn right along with me. It's trying to hit. Well, I'm not really sure where to go from here, so I'm going to try to crank it a few more times and see if we get lucky. Otherwise, we'll have to do a little bit of research and see if there might be air in the lines or if there's another filter somewhere. There's potentially a fitting on the mechanical governor, which I thought was the injector pump. It's on the front left side of the engine. There's a fitting on there with a screen, supposedly. So if we can't get it to start now, then I'm going to have to start pulling stuff off. Worst case, we got air in the system and I started this before it bled. So I'm going to try it a couple more times and see if we get anywhere with it. Wow, it actually sounds like it's hitting just a little bit. I know you're not supposed to crank these for a long time. It can be bad for the starter, but we might get somewhere with this. I don't really know. I'm learning right along with y'all here. I'd sure love to hear it run. So we're gonna try it again. It seems like it's starting to hit just a little bit. It's hitting a little harder than it was. This thing may start. I gave it a little bit of gas and it really didn't like that. Those hits, when I can feel it fire a little bit, that's what I'm calling a hit. It's not just cranking and nothing's happening. It's firing just a little bit. And I really like that. That's kind of exciting. But when I gave it some throttle, it didn't like it. It stopped hitting. It went to just cranking. So we're going to cycle this again for just a minute. This is one of those things. We may get this by just sticking with it. I'm just afraid we're going to run the batteries down before we get it to start. It's still hitting, but I don't know if it's getting any better. I know the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing, expecting a different result. I'm probably getting pretty close to the point of quitting for now on this truck and figuring out what our next step is going to be. All right, I'm going to say we ran our batteries dead, so we're going to pull them out and take them home to put on the charger. I didn't want to leave them here on the charger unattended, so we'll charge them and maybe come back tomorrow and try this again. So over here on the passenger side, you got a lever. This door opens up. I've already pulled this handle loose, and the battery tray slides right on out. This is a 24-volt system, so we have hot right here. Negative jumps over to hot on the second battery. We have negative coming off the other side. Wrong tool for the right job. Boy, that's definitely hot. I'm going to pull the negative loose first. Just using a crescent wrench here, but I'm gonna get these batteries pulled off, take them and charge them. I feel like right before these batteries went down, the truck was starting to hit, so if we did get air in the system or for some reason I didn't get that primed, maybe it was starting to pick up. Fuel there towards the end. Boy, there we go. Got that one off. Probably would have been better off getting a ratchet or a box end wrench for this. Crescent wrench was an easy grab, but doesn't fit in there super well. All right, guys, we're back at the shop. Before I went on with the evening, I really wanted to cut this filter open and see what we've got inside. This is one of my favorite things to do. Anytime I change a filter on something that I'm a little worried about, I like to cut it open and see what's inside. I'm not so much looking for metal shavings here like I normally would be. I'm just hoping to see a lot of gunk in this element, because if there's not gunk in the element, we may have something else going on with the truck. So this tool right here is meant just for cutting filters open. It's got ball bearings on two sides, and it's got a little wheel on one side. This is a lot like a tubing cutter that you've seen to probably cut copper tubing with or something like that. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of pressure, spin it around. By nature, this is not going to create any shavings. So in this case, since I'm just looking for gunk, I could probably use a Sawzall or a grinder or something to cut the filter open. But this tool is meant to not add any shavings, because on another motor or something where you're really looking for metal shavings, you definitely don't want to add any. So you have a good representation of what's in your filter element. We're about cut through. Holding it down on the top. They tend to get bound up here at the very end. Tighten it and see if I can get this side cut back here. Pretty close. May just about have it off. That may be enough, really. Cut it back around this side. They tend to get bound up at the very end. We may have it off. There we go. Got it all the way off. It wasn't too bad. Here's where it gets fun. See, the cap comes straight off. Nice clean cut. No shavings. We'll loosen up the vise just a little bit and look at our filter element. Let's see what we got here. Well, there's a fair amount of trash in it, but truth be told, not the slime or the gunk that I was hoping to see. I kind of don't think this was our problem. Really, I'm not sure this filter looks bad enough to completely stop the motor from running. There's no slime. The elements feel dry. Yeah, they're black, but I would be pretty surprised if this was keeping fuel from flowing altogether. I'm going to tear a sample out right here just to look at it. There's no gunk back behind. Y'all can see this here, that wire mesh inner part of the filter right there. There's no gunk buildup. I don't see how this would stop the motor from running. I really don't. So we may be looking for a screen on the inlet side or some other issue that shut us down. So I'll do a little bit of research, a little looking around, and we'll try the next thing. It's a new day. We're working on the M35A3 again. Yesterday we replaced the fuel filter, cranked until the batteries ran dead. I've got them at home charging. No start. So today my plan is to try to drain the fuel out of the fuel water separator right here. There's a drain petcock right there that I'm going to loosen. See if we can get anything out of the bottom of the fuel filter. Then we're going to go clear a check valve on the gas tank that keeps the fuel from backflowing from the engine to the tank. And hopefully a combination of those two things will get this fuel system opened back up. And we may also pressurize the tank and try to force fuel through the system. So while the batteries are charging at home, we're going to try to get this fuel system bled, which we may have done incorrectly yesterday. So let's see how that goes. Here's our fuel filter housing. Here's our drain valve on the bottom of the fuel water separator. I'm going to open this up and see if we have any fuel coming out. And we don't. That can mean a couple of things. This may be clogged, or we may have never got fuel to it yesterday at all. So I've got a straw off of our PV Blaster WD-40. Oh, that does seem like it's clogged plumb up. I wonder if this straw is even going to be enough. I'm just trying to poke it in there. May take something like a drill bit or something a little more stout. I'm going to see if maybe that's enough. So we've reamed that out. I'm going to leave it open. Let's go see if we can clear the inlet side on the tank. So what we're working with right here, here is the inlet of the fuel system. So this runs up to our governor on the left front side of the engine. Again, there's not an injector pump on this truck. I learned there's just a governor up there. So this runs to our governor. Here we have a return line. So we have a send line, we have a return line. And this may be a fuel level sensor here. I'm really not sure. A lot of this I'm learning right along with y'all. So we're going to take apart this send line right here, and there should be a check valve in here that tends to gum up. That check valve allows fuel to come up out of the fuel tank and go to the motor, but it keeps the system primed and keeps that fuel from coming back and running into the tank. So I read yesterday that that check valve can be gummed up and could be causing our fuel system problems. So we're going to go ahead and clear that check valve, make sure it's all good. Then we may try to pressurize the fuel tank and force fuel up and into our fuel system past that check valve. So I'm hoping that thing's gummed up. I went and found an old mag light with the batteries blown up in it, took the mag light apart, stuck it on my wrench, and it was just enough of a cheater. I was able to bust this loose. So that's pretty cool. Gotta say, it's the first time I've used a mag light to bust a fitting loose. All right, I'm going to try to keep that as clean as I possibly can. I'm going to set it out of the way over there. Now this, I guess I'm going to go ahead and pull this fitting out. It felt semi-loose earlier. I'm not sure. This might be taking the whole tube out of the fuel tank. I'm not sure if that's what I want to do, but it's what it's wanting to do. Let's see what we got here. Nope, just the fitting. Wow, that is pretty gummed up. I don't know how to tell if that's operational or not. I'm gonna bring it around and see if I can show y'all. You know, I'm gonna go try to get that cleaned out. There's clearly nothing passing through that right now, so we're gonna see if it operates or not. No O-rings. It looks like I'm gonna have to bring back some TFE paste to put that back in the pickup here. That pickup tube seems clear. I'll look down in there with a flashlight and let y'all know what we find out. All right, we've got this check valve, this check ball out, and I'm gonna test and check for function. So I can see in the bottom here, there is a plunger and a retaining ring. I can push it with my screwdriver. To be honest, before I brought the camera out, I tried to push it a time or two. It was not as stuck as I thought it would be to cause a problem. I did get it to move with the screwdriver. It stayed plunged in and didn't return. Tapping it just a time or two freed it up. So I don't know if this was our problem or not, but here's how this works. This set in the top of our fuel tank straight up. So it should allow fuel to travel this direction and not this direction. So to test that for leaks, fuel should be able to go this direction with suction on it. So I'm going to spray some of our parts cleaner right in the top. I've got it full of parts cleaner now. It's not draining through. So once the fuel pump goes to sucking fuel, it does let fuel through. You can see by pushing the plunger, it allowed our parts cleaner to travel all the way through. Now this is a backflow preventer also. This plunger prevents fuel from going backwards through the system. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this the opposite direction. And this is doing two things. It's telling us if this functions correctly, and we're cleaning the part at the same time. So I've got that full of parts cleaner now. I'm going to hold it up. And I'm actually going to say this plunger is working correctly and still has a good seal in it. None of our parts cleaner is draining through. Now if I push my screwdriver into the plunger on the bottom, that would be the same as the system creating vacuum and sucking fuel. So when I push that in the plunger, sure enough, our parts cleaner comes out. Then as soon as the engine dies, there's no suction, the plunger comes back down, and it keeps our lines primed. So by testing this just now, I feel like it is operating way better than it was. Whether or not it was our problem, I don't know. But I would say it's functional. There's a clip in the bottom that I could remove to take the plunger out, but I really think it's working okay, so I'm not going to mess with that. We're about to reinstall our check valve. I had considered blowing air through our fuel send line right here, but I'm concerned that if we don't have fuel in that paper element, we could hurt the filter by doing that. So we're going to go ahead and put all this back together. Then I'm going to try pressurizing the fuel tank itself, which should push fuel up through the line, through our filter housing, and we'll go back and make sure that that petcock on the bottom of the filter housing is clear, and we should be able to push fuel through the whole system, is what I'm hoping. This is a pipe thread fitting on the very bottom. We've got pipe thread in the tank, so I'm going to put a little bit of our fuel safe TFE paste on the pipe fitting, screw this back in. This is a conical fitting up here, or AN fitting, so that actually seals itself. We don't need any dope on that. I used this not too long ago, but a lot of times you got to stir this up if it's sat on the shelf very long. I got these threads what I would consider clean enough. They're not perfectly clean. I'm just going to get an even coating on this all the way around. I wonder if I can get one more turn. No, man, I'm not going to get one more turn. Well, I hate that I went too far with that. I'm going to back it out, put some more dope on, and then go back in with it. I don't like tightening these and then backing them out to correct position. I want to go in and stop at the right angle. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and use our Maglite cheater bar to get this tight. This needs to be tighter in truth. I use my adjustable wrench upside down. This tends to break the jaws. If you don't know that about these adjustable wrenches, or I call them a crescent wrench, this is the weak part of the jaw right here. You always want to put pressure turning the wrench this direction. If you turn the wrench backwards, it puts pressure on that adjustable jaw, and I've broken these jaws before. So you can put a lot more force on the wrench. This is the correct direction right here. So it looks like we can finish that direction. That's pretty tight. That's tight. Our Maglite cheater bar worked pretty good. And I didn't ruin a good Maglite. I found this one laying around here. The batteries are blown up. I couldn't even get the back battery out of it. So I would say that served its purpose. Well, I'm gonna hook up the compressor. We're gonna put some air in the system and see if we can bleed these lines. All right, I officially apologized for cheating. I came around here and I found a small Phillips screwdriver that I wanted to stick in that petcock and make sure we got it cleaned out, because the lubricant squirter, I'm not sure what was going all the way in. I came around not expecting much to happen, and I knocked out a bunch of junk, and now we've actually got fuel flow straight through that petcock. So I should have showed you all that. I really didn't expect anything to happen. I learned my lesson. I'll bring you with me next time. I'm looking for something to put under here now to trap that fuel, and we'll try to pressurize the system and get it bled. All right, I'm on the other end at the fuel tank. You're watching the petcock. I'll show you how I do this shortly. I've wrapped a rag in the fuel fill on the tank, and I'm going to blow compressed air into the tank, trying to build pressure, forcing fuel to you. So it looks like it worked for a moment, and the fuel stopped coming. Let's see if by chance that got plugged up again. That's still open. Well, there's a little more fuel coming. I wonder if we pushed existing fuel through the lines. I'm wanting to push new up from the tank. Boy, we may need to end up taking that apart. All right, I'm gonna go add some more air again and see if we can make fuel flow. All right, here's what we're doing. I've got compressed air and I've got this cotton t-shirt. I'm just wrapping it around the end where the nozzle pokes through, wrapping it around pretty tight. It doesn't have to be a perfect seal. It's not gonna be a perfect seal, but that made about a big enough plug that I could work into the filler neck on the fuel tank. And so what I'm doing is I'm adding air to the fuel tank to displace the fuel that's in there and try to force it through the lines. And I'm just watching under the truck to see if that fuel spills out. As soon as this compressor shuts off, I'll tell you all what we got going on. I peeked in there with a flashlight to make sure our dipstick was still submerged in fuel. We have some kind of problem that's keeping fuel from going through the lines all the way through the filter and out the petcock on the drain. Don't know where the plug is. I'm gonna go up to the governor next and see if there's a screen or something plugging up there. I'm kind of baffled on this one a little bit. I fully expect, we got that first blast of fuel and I'm not sure where that came from unless it was in the filter housing. I was really encouraged to see that. So let's go up to the governor module and see what's happening up there. All right, just tracing fuel lines. They come from the tank straight up here. This is the first place these fuel lines touch. There's some kind of weird drain petcock here. It's possible from my research that there's some sort of screen up here. So I'm gonna pull this, what might be a drain fitting, and just see what happens. It'd be cool if there's some kind of filter in there. Looks like we're gonna need to put, well, that looks to me like it's just a plug. I'm gonna stick a screwdriver up there and see if I can feel anything. Feels wide open. That was just a pipe plug. Really don't know what that's for. I guess that could be for bleeding purposes. We could close the petcock and see if we get any fuel to come out there. However, I think that's the return line. This is the smaller of the two fuel lines. So I really feel like this is going to be the return. Pretty confident that is. I'm going to wipe this off and go ahead and, well, we can see what else we got in here, I guess. Let's pull, I know I'm just taking stuff apart now. Let's pull this off right here. This is the bigger line. Ooh. That could be our screen, the way that was so loose. That's clear straight through. That's just some sort of extension. I'm not seeing any screen. Can you all see that? That's straight through right there. So I'm going to say that this is not our problem. I really don't know what this is, but we can see right through it. That O-ring looks like it's in good shape. I'm not concerned about that, so let's put that back in. That looks clear. These were not deathly tight. Just kind of trying to pay attention to how tight these were so I can put them back just like they were. That's a little tighter, if anything. I guess we could go ahead and take this apart real quick and just see what we might have here. Let's go ahead and pull this out now. Just kind of curious what all we got. I want to make sure we can see through all of this. Since I had in my head that there might be a screen here, I want to make sure that there's not. One more we can see all the way through. There's an O-ring, so I don't need any paste on that. And this is a conical seat. I don't think that's the right term, but it's what I'm using. It actually looks like a spring right there. Let's take a peek in there real quick. What do we have? There's a spring. All right, let's see what we got in there. That looks like another check valve. So if the spring is on this side, that means we're holding fuel that way. So this is going to be our return line. So that's a return check valve, I'm going to say. So I'm going to thread this back in. It does have an O-ring on it. O-ring looks like it was in good shape. This is going to need some of our pipe dope on it, or I call it TFE paste. Just snug, since that's an O-ring. I'm going to go ahead and put the plug back in. Tell you what, I'm actually going to wait on that plug, and let's do a little experiment and just see if we can get fuel to come out right there with the fuel filter closed. I don't know if by chance that's a bleed point. I'm learning right along with y'all on this one. Only you can skip to the end of the video and see the result, whereas I still don't know. So I'm going to leave you watching that. I'm going to close the petcock on the fuel water separator, and I'm going to go pressurize our tank one more time and see if we can get any fuel to come out there. I went and pressurized the tank. I didn't see any fuel come out right here. I'm going to put this plug back on, and I think what I'm going to do is bring back charged batteries and try to start it again. I'm not sure what else to try. I wonder if the position that the governor is in, or the injectors or the pumps or something that I'm not messing with is just not allowing fuel to pass. But because that initial squirt of fuel through the bottom of the filter housing, that leads me to believe that at least the lines are clear to the filter housing. I'm just not sure why I can't prime the system. So we'll try what we did before. We'll bring batteries back and we'll see if we can get this to self-prime, and hopefully we've cleared the obstruction. So that's where we are right now. We're gonna leave this be, bring hot batteries back, and see if we can't get this to start with hot batteries. Yep, come on, come on. All right. Did we get it?